Happy Monday! Hey guys, so anyway, it's Monday, so we might as well do Monstera Mondays because I've got good news. My Monstera Albo has finally done something. So, um, this is my Monstera Albo cutting. Originally, it's two leaves, two very pretty marbled leaves. Funny story about how I actually got this cutting. It was kind of an accident, but not really. So I got it off eBay. So I've always wanted a Monstera Albo because it is super pretty. Who doesn't want one? Yeah. So I was browsing to eBay and I was a little bit drunk, and but I always just look for prices and things like that just to make absolutely sure that what the price is. If there's a good deal, I'm not gonna say no, but I know they're really expensive, so I always think that, well, do I really want to buy or a cutting that might die on me and spend all that money that I could buy in, I don't know, 10 cheap plants. But anyway, by the by on that one. I had some wine. I wasn't really thinking very clear. So I was browsing eBay whilst drunk. Never a good idea, by the way, unless you just want to spend money. And I saw this listing and I thought, oh well, it's got really two really pretty leaves and they're marbled, which is kind of what I wanted, and I'll go through why I want marble cutting later on in the video instead of half moons and full moons, but some of you may know why, but if you don't, I will obviously explain to you why marbled is better. And it had a narrow root and it had a node, and I was like, wow, amazing, that is a good cutting, so I'm just gonna bid on it. And I did, and it wasn't going to end anytime soon, so I thought, I'll just bid on it, and then I'm sure somebody will outbid me because ultimately speaking, these things are not cheap and they usually go for super expensive. So I thought I would bid up to what I thought was a reasonable price for a two-leaf cutting with a narrow root. So, and it was also capped with beeswax as well, which is quite nice because that prevents the rot from actually going into the where it was cut originally. So I thought that was a good call by the seller. And yeah, so I went to bed, didn't think anything of it, and the next thing I know, I received an email from eBay saying, congratulations, you've won your bid. And I'm like, what? And it is these two leaf cuttings, and I won it, and I wasn't expecting to win it. And then I was thinking, oh shit, I have to find a way to actually figure out how to root this baby, because I'm going to be paying a lot of money for this thing, and I have no idea how I'm going to root it because I've never rooted Monstera before. I have bought a green Monstera plant, but that's already rooted for me, so I didn't have to do any of the hard work. And I don't really want to do it wrong because whilst I have rooted other plants before, it was always from like my own plant cuttings, and if it kills over and die, it doesn't matter because I have plenty left to spare. And this one, I'm spending real money here, and I am absolutely thinking, oh no, what do I do? So proceeded to spend a long time looking on the internet on how do you root it. Do you root it in water? Do you root it in soil? Do you root it in perlite, moss? What on earth is the best way? But I also actually sent the seller an email and said, look, help, I love this cutting, it's my dream plant, I don't want to kill it, can you please let me know what's the best way to root it? And the sellers were actually really helpful, and the seller was like, oh yeah, I've done loads of this before, and all you have to do is just get a mix of orchid bark, compost and perlite, mix it together, put the plant in it, and that's basically what I did. And you can see major roots. It's been working really hard the past 2 months making all these little roots. So yeah, so it did work, and obviously it must have worked because it came out with a new leaf too, so all good news. But yeah, don't eBay whilst drunk, because you're gonna get up with a surprise email that tells you, by the way, you won something and you have no idea what to do about it, and that might not be what you want to do. So, but it came out good in the end because I always wanted this plant anyway. Bad news is obviously about few weeks ago, somebody near me was actually selling off elbow cuttings for like 20 to 30 pounds, and I'm absolutely gutted because I paid a lot more for these. But anyway, that's in the past. Oh well, you sort of live and you carry on, yeah? So anyway, new leaf time. This is my new leaf. So you can see it's a little bit pale and a little bit floppy. It literally unfurled today. It's been trying to do that for probably 10 days, something like that. And you can see it's quite a nice marbly, a little bit white, plenty of green around here. So eventually it's going to darken into what the adult leaves look like, but they're usually starting out quite pale because new leaves generally are a little bit thinner and more translucent, and once it starts working it will turn a little bit greener, so that's always good news. So going back to obviously why you would choose a marbled leaf cutting over a half moon or a full moon is because it ensures the cutting survives better, because all the green stuff actually produces chlorophyll. And that's kind of what you want, so that the plant can actually make food, grow roots and do things. However, if you have a full moon cutting, it doesn't matter if it's got a node, if you have a full moon cutting with no green whatsoever, it's not going to survive. It's going to turn brown and break your heart, because full moon leaves generally don't survive. We need to remember that variegation in the Monstera Albo is actually a mutation, and the green bits is doing all the hard work and the white bits doesn't really do that much work. And why would a plant want to have any bits of it that doesn't work hard to feed it to grow? Yeah, so therein lies the problem, is basically we love the variegation, but the more variegation you have, the less the less likely the plant will survive, and you kind of need to weigh it 50-50. So anyone who's grown Monstera Albo and wants to help you out instead of trying to just sell you a cutting will tell you you want to aim for about a 50-50 green and white, and that's probably the maximum you should go for in terms of how much white you want to go for. If you go any more white than 50-50, you're probably just risking death of the plant. But if you are going to be paying a lot for a cutting, you want it to be marbled to ensure good success rate, because what's going to happen is that when you have a marble cutting, there's very good chance that it can grow whiter and whiter leaves anyway, in which case it's up to you entirely if you want to actually keep any full moon leaves that comes up, but it needs to be attached to the mother plant if you wanted to make sure that it survives. And even then it's probably quite hard work, because you'll have to ensure that you have very good consistent fertilization for the cutting. Well, I say cutting, I mean the mother plant, because if you try to make a cutting out of your white leaf, it's not going to survive. And I hate it that people are selling off full moon Albo cuttings knowing for sure that it's not going to survive. It's just going to look pretty until it goes browns and die off, and it's just going to be a lot of heartbreak and a lot of money wasted. So do not buy full moon cutting. They're trying to scam you off your money. However, half moon cutting has good survivability. We were talking about 50-50, but still with half moon, oftentimes if the plant is not actually receiving enough nutrients, which as cutting sometimes they don't, especially if the root system is not fully established, it can't get the nutrition from the soil if the root system is not established. So it basically needs to survive using its leaf and sunlight temporarily whilst it's trying to grow its roots. And if you have half the leaf that's white and half the leaves that's green, it might decide to sacrifice the white bit and just focus on keeping the green bit alive, because the green bit's the one that actually is doing the work. So even a half moon cutting might not survive. So you kind of have to hedge your bets a little bit on that. So I don't really think that we really should be encouraging anyone to buy those type of cuttings when they don't survive that well. So get yourself some marble cuttings if you want an albo, and grow your own half moon or full moon, because eventually it'll push out some weird random variegation. And the beauty of obviously a Monstera Albo is that you get weird and wonderful and unpredictable patterns. And that's kind of why we're here.